Welcome again to Ancient Tales for Today. Well, in our last lesson, number 36, we talked about when you don't want your money back. 你不要人家不要退换你的钱. Okay, and we talked about making a mistake and then people doing something in your favor, 对你有利. Okay? And whatever the story is, it was a hard one to believe. And they were very suspicious. Very suspicious. 很难容易怀疑的. Well, today's lesson is number 37. What do you do when you are starving? 当你饿死的时候，到底你要做什么? Stay by, we got more.
Number 37. What do you do when you are starving? When you are truly starving, you have to make some hard decisions. You have to get food or you will die. In the ancient tale we have been telling, Joseph's brothers have returned home with grain for their family. But sadly, the famine continues. Eventually, the grain will start to run out, and they will have to return to Egypt and buy more. But they cannot go back unless their youngest brother, Benjamin, goes with them to prove their story to the governor of Egypt. They don't know yet that the governor actually is their long-lost brother, Joseph. Jacob, the father, doesn't want to send Benjamin. "Joseph is gone," he cries. "Simeon is gone too. Now you want to take away Benjamin." No, he refuses to agree. It is such a very sad situation. "My son cannot go with you to Egypt," he tells them. "His brother is dead and he's the only one left. If anything were to happen to him on this journey, it would kill me." I'm sure they struggled along for a while, trying to make the grain last as long as possible, trying to delay the time when they would be forced to go back to Egypt. But eventually there is nothing left. They will have to go back to Egypt and buy more grain or starve to death. Jacob is still arguing. "Why did you tell the man in Egypt you had another brother?" he asks. But eventually he has to agree, and Benjamin goes with them. Jacob must have felt that his life had reached another low point. He was sending all his sons back to Egypt, not knowing whether he would see any of them again. But he had no choice, otherwise they would starve to death. A tragedy that still affects many in our world today. And for Jacob, things are about to get worse.
So, what do you do when you are starving? You remember, well, I hope that you can remember hearing some Americans or foreigners saying, "I'm starving to death." Of course, what they mean is they are just really hungry. But if you are really starving, what do you do? That's today's lesson. When you are truly starving, you have to make some hard decisions. You have to get food or you will die. So, hard decisions, 很难做的决定，很难做的选择。 So when you're truly starving, you have to make some hard decisions. You have to get food or you'll die. You know, you understand the gravity. Ooh, that's a heavy word, gravity of the situation, how heavy the situation is. In the ancient tale that we've been telling, in this old story that we have been telling, Joseph's brothers have returned home with the grain to their family. Okay, that's good news. They get home, the family, and they've got food for the family. But sadly, and here's the sad part of the story, 很伤心的, the famine continues. 这个饥荒继续. Eventually, grain will start to run out. 终于会就开始慢慢没有这个食物。And they will have to return to Egypt to buy more. 结果呢，他们必须回到埃及再买一些。Okay? 再买一些。Going on. But they cannot go back. Now you remember the story. They cannot go back unless their youngest brother Benjamin goes with them to prove that the story to the governor of Egypt. Now, the governor of Egypt is Joseph. Remember, he's the number 2 man in the country. And the governor said, I will not believe you unless you bring your little brother back. They cannot go back unless they take their younger brother Benjamin, okay, with them. And this will prove that their story to the governor is the truth. Of course, and then I have parentheses here, they don't know that the governor actually is their long-lost brother, Joseph. Now, what do we mean by long-lost brother? Okay, brother, of course, is 弟兄. But what does it mean, long lost? Long lost brother means 这个很久失散的弟兄. You see, they had done very bad, of course. They had sold their brother to the Egyptians, and then they had lied about their brother to their father. So it was not a happy situation. And for many years, they did not know anything about their brother. They did not know that the powerful governor, 这个管理埃及的那个人，很有权力的，很有力量的。They did not know that was their brother, long lost brother. Of course, going back there, of course, Jacob, the father, doesn't want to send Benjamin. You can understand that, because you already lost one son. Jacob, the father, doesn't want to send Benjamin. Joseph is gone. Okay, of course, that's the brother who's now the most powerful person in Egypt, except for the king. Joseph is gone, he cries. Simeon is gone too. Now you want to take away Benjamin. He's crying. 他坚决不同意。坚决不同意。He refuses to agree because he's afraid now he's going to lose 3 sons. Joseph already gone. He'll lose Benjamin. And Simeon is already in the jail. Okay? Going on. Going on. It is such a very sad situation. Okay, a very sad situation, a very bad situation. Bad and sad, that almost rhymes, doesn't it? Okay, it's a very bad situation. It makes people feel very upset. And of course, Jacob was very upset. The father, my son cannot go with you to Egypt, he tells them. My mind is made up. My son will not go with you. His brother is dead, and he is the only one left. You don't, well, I was going to say you, we all don't really understand how sad Jacob was when Joseph did not return home. And for years he's been dead, or at least Jacob thought he was dead. So now he doesn't want to lose another son. Of course, I can understand. But how are we going to resolve this? 怎么能够解决这个困难呢? We'll be back in a little bit. Now we come to more light on your path. We're going to look at a New Testament text, and it will be interesting. It's very short. Matthew 4:2.
马太福音4章2节。
Now this story is about 这是提到耶稣自己的一个经验. First of all, let's read it. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry.
圣经说他就是指耶稣禁食40昼夜，后来就饿了。
Of course, 40 days.
40天。
Okay, now here's my question. How long can you go without food?
我想一天我就饿得不得了了。
Me too. I think that's about the best I can do. Now, of course, Jesus was going to do something very special.
对对。
And so he was preparing. And we say in Chinese, 默想
祷告。
Yeah. And so this was a very special time he didn't eat. Now, we're talking about the people in Joseph's story.
对。
The people back home, his father and his brothers, no food.
也是挨饿，因为饥荒，对不对？
Right. So you can only wait so much, and then you have to solve the basic things of like hunger. That's a basic issue.
对，饥饿。
Yeah, very, very important. What you wear, what you eat, these are important things that you have to
就是人的最基本的需要，对不对？
Right.
像睡觉、饮食、空气这些个穿的衣服，都是最基本的需要。
That's true. That's true. Okay, well, we'll come back to that a little bit later, but we'll wait for our next section. If anything were to happen to him on the journey, it would kill me. If anything were to happen to him on the journey, 在路途中如果出事情 to happen to him, it would kill me. 真的会要命。Actually, we use this all the time. 要命. It's killing me. Well, it wouldn't actually kill him. But sometimes when people are very sad, it does make them sick. Did you know that? Sometimes when people get cancer, 他们就生病，有癌症。You know what? It's because they are so sad, something very bad has happened, and they feel so bad, 会使他们的身体就产生癌症。So, it may be, when it says here, if anything should happen to him on the journey, it would kill me, there may be some truth to that. I'm sure they struggled along for a while. Struggled along. What does it mean to struggle along? It simply means that they had difficulty. 很困难的过生活. Trying to make the grain last as long as possible. Okay? 想办法把那个五谷能够持续的越久越好。Okay? As long as possible. Trying to delay, 要推迟，他们必须回去埃及再买一些了啊。So they are trying to delay going back. No, they're eating less. Can you imagine? They're eating less food because they don't want to go back. Because the father says, no, you cannot take your brother back. Okay? But eventually, 终于, they had nothing left. 没有其他的办法，也吃光了，他们的食物就吃光了。Okay? There was nothing left. Well, actually, that sentence you could almost translate, 吃光了，也没有什么其他的办法. So it might have two meanings. But the food was eaten up. They will have to go back to Egypt and buy more grain. 还要回去埃及再买一些五谷。Or 不然的话 or starve to death. 要饿死. Now that's a bad decision. And so when you get to that kind of decision, what do you do? Let's go on. Jacob is still arguing. 他还在这个争辩. What does it mean to argue? He doesn't want to let him go. He is not going to let his youngest son go. And he says, no, you can't take him back. But every day people are getting hungrier and hungrier, 越来越饿. So he starts to ask, why did you tell the man in Egypt, 为什么告诉这个埃及人 that you had another brother? 你为什么跟他说你还有一个弟弟? Okay? Well, that's actually a good question. That is a very, very good question. But Joseph had asked them, and so they told the truth. They didn't know, of course, that Joseph was their brother. But eventually, Jacob had to agree. So Benjamin goes with Benjamin, the youngest son. He goes with them back to Egypt. Jacob must have felt that his life had reached another low point. 雅各肯定是感觉到他的人生又下到另外一个低谷 low point 低谷 or sometimes we even say it has 就变得低潮 okay he was sending all of his sons back to Egypt. That means all of his sons are there. What would happen if all of his sons, well, something happened to them? He thought, what would happen if all of my sons were lost in Egypt? And he just was so sad. He was afraid that he would never see any of his sons again. Going on. But he had no choice. No choice. Absolutely no choice. Otherwise, they would starve to death. 要不然他们就会饿死。A tragedy, 悲剧 that still affects today. There are many people in our world today that are starving to death. 正在饿死。And because of that, these people do some very strange things, even bad things, to solve. And so Jacob had to send his son back. And our last line says, and for Jacob, things are about to get worse. 对雅各来说，这个情况会变得更加糟糕。So, we'll be back for a wrap-up in just a moment. Thanks for joining us for Words You Need to Know. In this lesson, number 37, we start with the question, what do you do when you're starving? Starving? What's starving?
饿啊，很饿啊，很肚子饿啊，饥肠辘辘。
Okay, 饥饿. And you said a little bit earlier that you were hungry after one day. Okay, we say, Lena, we say starving to death.
饿死了。
But not really dying, but you feel like you
对，
could.
就有点夸张，饿死了。
Yeah, that's true. The next one is unless.
除非
Unless, dun, 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 dun. Okay. And then we have another one, and that says he refuses to agree.
这个就是说他坚决的不同意，或者是他要拒绝。
Okay, he refuses to agree. 他坚决不同意. That means he is not willing to agree. And of course, there are other words in our story, but we've run out of time. Thank you for joining us with Words You Need to Know. So there you have it. What do you do when you're starving? Well, people do like I mentioned a little earlier, they do a lot of strange things, sometimes bad things. In this case, Jacob had to send his son Benjamin back with the rest of the brothers. Otherwise, they would starve to death. 会饿死. He had nothing left. There was no more food left, and he had no other choices left. But the story is not finished yet. In our next lesson, we're going to talk about the cup test. Cup test? What is a cup test? Well, you'll want to join us then as we tell some more of this exciting story.
That's all for today, and thanks for watching. If you like Ancient Tales for Today, please visit atft.chinesehope.tv. You may also contact us by writing to ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Again, that's ancienttalesfortoday@gmail.com. Tell your friends about Ancient Tales for Today. See you next time.